Foursquare check-in data, Heat Tracker tells me the guy-girl ratio at a place and even shows me who the people are at that place.
I can also share which hotspot I'm going to with all of my friends.
You mean like on Facebook?
I mean just like on Facebook.
OMG and LOL, I heart Facebook. I have a farm there.
And the whole thing is so easy, folks. Watch this. Hi, what's your name?
Samantha.
See that? I just met Samantha using Heat Tracker. It's that easy, folks.
It's getting hot in here. Or is it just Heat Tracker? So, Matt, I'm sure everyone is wondering, how much does Heat Tracker cost? I'm guessing about $2?
That's a great guess, Sue. But no, you won't pay $2 or even 2 cents for Heat Tracker. That's right, friends. It's free. And promise to tell a friend about Heat Tracker, and we will even include... Download Heat Tracker now. Get Heat Tracker and get on with your night. Take it from me, folks. I'm fat. I don't even eat vegetables, and I'm hot because of Heat Tracker.
So there you go, Heat Tracker. Actually, it does exist, and you can download it from iTunes. So you've got Foursquare, you've checked in, you can find out where all the boys, all the girls, or whatever, you might be interested in later tonight after the after-show party using that. So it's an example of SoLoMo, though, a bit tongue-in-cheek. So you've got the social side of just wanting to be with people, meet people and share, and then you've got the local side, because you have to be, you will become a blue dot on a map, as he says, and you have the mobile side, because it's all through a mobile. But of course, social, local and mobile, big trends, we all know that, but knowing that's not really enough to take the full advantage of those. I mean, even the big boys are struggling. Groupon, yes, it got a successful IPO away, but its share price has been diving ever since, and it really struggled getting there. So it wasn't easy for them. Facebook is looking to abandon places and local check-ins of various sorts that they've got going, local deals rather. So even the big boys are struggling. It's no wonder that a lot of brands struggle. So what I want to do is have a look beyond the sort of buzzwords of SoLoMo and social, local, mobile, and just go a bit further and have a look at some examples about how people are approaching it in a different way, a more innovative way than perhaps some other people. And maybe there's some lessons here we can apply ourselves to brands that we work with and indeed ourselves. So as I say, I'll go through each one, social, local and mobile, and then I'll mix them up, maybe add a bit of purple or whatever, and let's see what happens at the end of that. So social. I'm assuming everyone here is on Facebook. I'll be surprised if people weren't, or everyone here is probably on LinkedIn too. Maybe a lot of you are also tweeting. So social is something you guys know a lot about, so you should also know that social is dead, therefore. What do I mean by that? Well, I suppose what I mean is that everything is now social, so really, I guess nothing is social, because it doesn't matter if you're doing a TV advert, launching a product, opening a store, people are going to talk about it. So whether you include in your communications plans or your creative plans a social presence as such, doesn't really make any difference. It's going to be social anyway. So in that sense, social has sort of lost its real sort of meaning and differentiation now. So I think we have to go a bit further than that to understand what it is and what it offers. Obviously, the first place people go to is, or think of, is Facebook. After all, it's got a gazillion people on Facebook. Is it 900 million or something now? So incredible numbers. And of course, it's very, very attractive. Everyone wants to be on Facebook. I mean, one of our clients, Oreo, has 23 million fans on Facebook. So a lot, but you can't all be an Oreo, I guess, as a brand. Nor can we all be Lady Gaga and have millions of followers on Twitter. And we can't really even compete with people's own social networks. I mean, the average number of friends people have on Facebook is what, 185 or something now? If you haven't got 185 friends, maybe you want to ask yourself some questions today, maybe make some friends today. But the point is, it's really hard to make an impact in that area. So just creating a Facebook page may not be enough to make that impact. And I think maybe there are more innovative approaches. So I want to share 3 examples of people who've taken maybe a quite different and innovative approach to social media and have had some real return on investment from doing that. So the first one are these guys. Kaiser's Orchestra, they're called. They're a pop group from Norway, so not a big brand. And what did they do? Well, they did almost like the unthinkable as a brand or a company. What they did was they released their sheet music before they actually released their first big single. And they said to everyone, make a copy of this, make your own version of this, help yourselves. Which is sort of crazy, sort of like suicide, isn't it? You know, what company would release its product description to the market and say, make a copy of my product before they even release the product? 500 people did make versions of their songs before they released their single in 4 different languages. So was that a disaster for them? Absolutely not. Their first single went to #2 in iTunes straight away, and they sold out their European tour without a single bit of PR spend. So it was a really interesting example of how they adopted the transparency and openness that social can offer to have real commercial benefit. Now, I suppose there is the question, was it social media, was it the music? So I thought I'd just share with you just a little bit of that music, just to see and judge that. I think I'll let you judge whether it was social or the music for yourselves there. Another example, which I think has already been mentioned yesterday in one of the talks, so I'll hopefully take a slightly different angle on this one, and that's 12 Force. For those who don't know, Best Buy, the electronic retailer, had a problem in their business. The problem was customer services. The customers weren't getting a response quick enough. It was taking an average of 24 hours to get a response to a query. And from a business point of view, it was costing a lot of money, because Best Buy was spending on average for every customer interaction about $12. So they came up with this idea using Twitter to solve this problem. So they formed a handle @12Force and basically opened up the opportunity for customers and prospects to ask questions about electronic devices on 12Force via Twitter. And they empowered all the blue shirts, as they're called, all the guys who work in the store, to be actually able to respond to those queries. So they really empowered the individuals to do that, and it had a massive effect. And these guys are responding at all times, not when they're on shift, when they're off shift. And what's happened? Well, customers are happy because the response time's gone down from 24 hours to 12 minutes. The company's happy because the cost of interaction has gone down from $12 to 25 cents. And the staff are happy because they're feeling really involved and engaged in their business and valued. So I think it's a really nice example of how you can use Twitter in a totally different way, not just using it as a push mechanism to push the latest PR release. Third example is Starbucks with their My Starbucks, which again you may have heard of. But what they've done there is they've used social platform, which is this site My Starbucks, to help them with research and development. Now in the UK, I think a third of companies say they spend absolutely nothing on research and development, which is a bit of a scary statistic, I think. But these guys have found a way of really economically getting research and development. So basically, they use the site, people can upload suggestions. And what are they leveraging? Their most best asset against their customer base. And the other session was not just about coffee flavours, but about where stores should be, and maybe innovations to improve the store experience. And some of these things have been tried out. They've actually experimented with these things. So one example is the kiosk that's been in certain stores around the world, where you can literally order your coffee rather than queuing up, which is a bit boring. People just order their coffee from the kiosk and then they can pick it up from where the coffees are delivered. So, some of these things are going to work, some of them aren't, but they're trying things, they're connecting with their customers, and they're using an asset. And they've got a business objective in mind, which means there's always this great chance of a good return on investment from social activity, which is something I think that social is sometimes accused of as, does it really deliver any return for us? So I'd say social's alive, not dead in that sense. And I suppose the sort of themes of this are, we can look beyond the Facebook page for the opportunity. It's really about understanding what's the problem. And if you link it to a problem, then when you do open up with the transparency that social media offers, you're much more likely to get a return on that investment. So that's social. moving quickly on to location. I imagine, again, a lot of you guys using locational tools like Foursquare. If you are, don't forget HeatTracker, of course. But you may also try Groupon. I've tried it, some of my friends have. And Groupon is the local deal service. So basically, a local, I don't know, fish pedicure. It's always things like that, isn't it? Fish pedicure, you can get enough people sign up for it, you can all get it at half price. And that's was one of the fastest growing companies of all time, Groupon, so you can't really knock that. But I think what's happening is people are beginning to get a bit tired of this. There's some really bad case studies of there's a bakery in the UK who tried it and lost £25,000 on it because people all came in for the offer and never came back again. They're like offer junkies, really. And obviously coupons and money off, that's a really easy way to persuade people into your shop or your store or your experience, and a really popular way, but not always that brand enhancing. So from a locational perspective, I think if people just rely on offers all the time, then it's going to have a detrimental effect in some way or other to the brand. So again, 3 examples, I think people are doing quite a good job trying to do things. But before we get on to that, I should remember the pigeon. It's always important, I think, in any social presentation to have some sort of animal. It should really be a cat, I understand that. But I thought I'd go for a pigeon just to be slightly different. So we've done a lot of research into customer behaviour and decision making. And basically the findings are that we're all pigeons. And what do I mean by that is a pigeon will never leave a crumb or a biscuit, bit of biscuit on the pavement. It's going to grab it, even at great personal risk to itself, because it's there and it's the moment when it's going to make a decision. So we did some research and found that the vast majority of people, if offered £100 a day or £200 in a week, will take the £100 a day. Because it's there, they know where it is. They don't want to wait a week just in case it disappears. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us at the moment of decision, you can really influence people, really nudge them in the direction you want them to go. And location is the best way to do that. And here are 3 examples of how you might want to be thinking of doing that. The first one is geofencing. I know people have heard of the term geofencing, but it's basically a way of creating literally a perimeter of mobile connection around an area, a physical area. So when customers walk into that area, you can then message them to their mobile phone. So we did a trial in 4 cities in America with this geofencing. And one of the clients we worked with was milk. Actually the milk board there, because they want to encourage people to drink more milk. So we geofenced the area where people exercise. And when people walked into that area, they received a message to their phone talking about the health benefits of milk. About how it's good for your health, it can strengthen, etc., etc. And so it wasn't an offer, it was just information we thought was useful to them. We also did something with a new pet food brand. So we told people who walked into an area where people tended to walk their dogs and exercise their animals. That here are some tips you might want to know about. And by the way, there's this new product. Yeah, we also did do an offer, I have to say, which persuaded people who were walking past the Kmart to turn around and walk into it, because it was a little bit of a hook to pull them in. We tried all these things, so we're getting about a 20% response rate to that, which is pretty high. So people were just being nudged at the right point at the right time. And you can geofence anywhere, by the way. So it's quite an interesting technology, an interesting opportunity to try some creative hooks. And you don't need to necessarily just stick at those things. You can actually game your brand. It's gamification, another great buzzword for us. American Apparel did something with Scavenger, which is the sort of treasure hunt app, and they basically used this app to get people to run around the store, interact with their products, take pictures of themselves, and they gained points and they won prizes. So I thought that was quite nice. They're using the location of the products to engage people in their brand a bit. And the third one is a club in Ibiza. And this is an example of SoLoMo, really, but they issue people with wristbands. So as you walked into the club, it hooked up to these screens and posted a picture of you and whoever you're with to your Facebook wall. And it's a nice way of sort of socialising, creating social currency that you can give to your friends and pass on. You had to be there, of course, which is one of the most important things. And you're using mobile wristbands, using near-field communication sort of technologies that allowed that to happen. And they had about, in one season, this last season, they had over 500,000 pictures posted to Facebook walls. So pretty successful, I think. So I think in terms of location, definitely it's alive. We don't need to worry about that. And I think the real thing there is just being more inventive, more creative, looking beyond offers, thinking about the value one can add to people's experience when they're out and about. And that's where the real opportunities lie. So the third one, so we've got so, we've got low, how about mobile? Well, again, I'm guessing most people here have an iPhone. That's a safe assumption, but I'm pretty comfortable with that. And a lot of people do think of mobile and an iPhone app as being obvious. That's the way you should go with mobile, that's the opportunity. Actually, of course, the average number of apps we have on our iPhone is about 35, of which we probably use one or two, one of which is going to be mapping anyway. So, is it really such a big opportunity? I mean, an awful lot of money is invested in these apps, but is there really any longevity to take up? I think that's a real question one needs to ask. Is it really rooted in a customer problem or an opportunity, or is it just an app? So, if one takes that approach and is very iPhone-centric, I think there is a danger that mobile opportunity will disappear or escape you. So, I think the other point to think about is the rise of Android and the fact that that's going to overhaul iPhones very soon. They're going to swap the market with devices, cheaper devices, more diverse devices. So I think the time of iPhone supremacy is very much, although they're going to release the 5 next year, I'm not sure how long it's going to last, to be honest. So there are other ways to address mobile than an iPhone app, I suppose. This is something we built for Roche Pharmaceutical to help them engage with healthcare professionals. So we created something in HTML5, which is basically a technology that can work across all different smartphones and handsets. So it doesn't need to be reliant on being a native app on an iPhone or a BlackBerry or an Android device. And it basically works on a PC, an iPad, a mobile device. It doesn't matter. But it's a way of, and the real issue here was helping Roche to network and to connect with healthcare professionals in a highly regulated market. So we did this at conferences. And really we offered a lot of value to customers through things like maps and directions and schedules of the event. But we also allowed them to network with each other. It became a very useful device, and we've run it in several countries around the world now with Roche. And it's proven very useful to them. So it's sort of a way of using a broader technology, because we couldn't rely on using an iPhone, we couldn't rely on downloading an app. So it just made it generally more accessible. I suppose the big point here again though is it's not about the technology. In mobile we've got to think about the user and what the user behaviour is. I mean most of us, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty obsessed with just picking my phone out of my pocket and using it. I'm in a queue for a coffee, I'll have a quick look. If I'm wherever I am. Over 50% of mobile internet usage is actually in the home. It's not out and about, but people just snack on content all the time. 86% of mobile internet users watching TV are also using a smartphone. And only 26% of them are talking about the TV program they're watching, which is quite an interesting thought as well. They've basically got really partial attention. They're half watching the TV, they're half chatting with their friends, they're probably half chatting with people in the room. It's a real, you have to really compete for people's attention. So people want snackable content. You can't just squeeze great big creative experiences into the handset all the time. And people want easy in, easy out. They don't want any barriers to stop them getting what they want. They want relevancy. And so there's really interesting dynamics now with the mobile phone. And when thinking creatively about this, is just to think in the mindset of that particular user when he's actually using the device. Maybe actually challenge the business model of some of the things that clients are doing as well. And one example, which isn't, I have to say, the most creative example, but American Airlines wanted to create a device to help, an app actually, to help customers book their travel and organise their arrangements. And obviously they like to talk about exotic destinations, how exciting it is to go to the Caribbean, these sort of things. But actually what it boiled down to, what the client problem was not wanting to hear about that. It was really just, what are my times of my flight? How can I schedule? What's my booking? So we really reduced it right down to a very, very simple interface, which works for that particular occasion. But there's lots and lots of opportunities on mobile creativity now. Obviously the more powerful handsets are coming out. So augmented reality, I'm sure we've all looked at that and thought, that's pretty amazing. But even the humble QR code still seems to have some legs left in it. Obviously the big example here was the Korean Tesco one, which I think maybe we talked about yesterday as well, where they put the QR codes along the subway wall and allow people to buy stuff off it. Well, here's an issue from Croatia, which is stamps with QR codes on. You could basically track your letters and your packages by using this QR code. So I thought it was a nice use of QR codes, an inventive use of it. I think that W.H. Smith one actually was also mentioned, so a few of these examples you mentioned. A pop-up store in a bus stop, just QR codes, one on the left. you can just buy straight off the bus stop. One of our clients, eBay, is opening actually a real store in Oxford Street, the big shopping street in London. And all it's going to be filled with is QR codes. 200, 300 of them. So that's sort of quite an interesting way to use these sort of mobile technologies, sort of thinking maybe quite creatively about how to use them. But it's big business, mobile, and no one can ignore it. eBay turned over 2 billion last year through mobile devices. It's going to be near over 5 billion this year. So we're talking big amounts of money, and that's just eBay alone. So the opportunities for clients, for brands, for us, are huge around mobile and mobile commerce. The area of mobile wallets is particularly interesting. If you're a friend of
first lesson 3.
you're probably aware of this. It always makes me laugh when I think about it, because my wallet's just about as big as this. So you get the idea. It's probably a good thing if his wallet turned into that and you just use your phone as a mobile wallet. And there's a lot of competitors in the space that offer us that service, from Google to PayPal to everyone really. Lots of different players in that market who want to transform our phone into a wallet. And that's actually quite exciting for creative as well. Because often creativity, people question whether it returns on investment. But this is going to help us close the loop on some of the activity we're doing out in the more ambient, maybe experiential marketing. Because this will be able to track people's experience right way through to the till and whether they actually pay at the till using their mobile, whether through over-the-air sort of technologies or near-field communication, it doesn't matter. We're able to say, did they see that and then did they respond? Was that? What was the cash they actually generated from that? So that's quite a nice way of proving return on investment. But it doesn't have to be a phone. I mean, other companies are looking at this area as well with interest to think, well, maybe we could be the wallet. So BMW thinks it's car keys. They think that's the wallet of the future. So they think not only is it the wallet of the future, it's actually your personal identification. It opens your car. It could open the door to your office because it recognises who you are through your car phone, through your car keys, and you can pay your bills through it. So it's going to be a really interesting time to see how that whole mobile wallet space works out, because there's only room for so many mobile wallets in your pocket. So it's going to be a really, really competitive race in the next couple of years. And the money and the amount of commercial benefit at stake is huge. But I think it's exciting for everyone that we can be able to start using these technologies. And of course, in terms of that, I would definitely say mobile alive. I know, how many years have we been talking about the year of the mobile? At least 10, I expect. Is it the year of the mobile next year? Is it going to be as was it this year? I think its time has definitely come, and these technologies are really, really interesting. But in many ways, these are, the way to look at it is just, again, taking a step back from it. Don't just think of the iPhone. Certainly don't just think of the iPhone app. Think about the mobile consumer and their behaviour. It's a very different behaviour than sitting in other environments. And basically, mindsets can very much vary between people wanting to save time or waste time. They're basically the two mindsets people are in when on a mobile. And frankly, every brand, I think, can think of ways where they can help people waste time. And I'm sure there's ways they can help them save time as well. And if you get that right, it's big business, definitely. So SoLoMo, just to sort of bring it all together, I suppose. Is that alive? Is that, well, probably as a term, it should definitely die. I mean, SoLoMo, ouch. It's not a, it's a pretty painful term, but as an opportunity, I think, social allows us to know who people are, what their interests are. Local tells us where they are, and mobile allows us to deliver them the relevant experience at that moment in time as well, moment in time and a place in time. So, massive opportunity for relevancy here. And then all the data that's able to, if you put all those together to generate, is hugely powerful. It really is a way of turning our consumers to individuals, and giving them really individual creative experiences that are relevant to them. I mean, a 32-year-old man living in Lisbon, for instance, maybe next door to another 32-year-old man living in Lisbon. Typically, we might bundle them into the same demographic, they're the same sort of people, but of course they could be completely different. One could be in finance, you could Twitter about share prices and like to check in on Foursquare and airports. Another guy might be into music, he likes tagging friends at clubs, and he likes checking into bars. I don't know, but you know what I mean? It's very different. SoLoMo allows us to give them complete relevancy. So those technologies are only getting better. Siri, which is, I'm sure you're aware of, the personal assistant on your phone, you literally on an iPhone 4S, you speak into it and it will give you information back. So it knows where you are, so you say, where's the nearest bar? And it tells you exactly where the nearest bar is, because it knows where you are and it knows exactly where the directions are. That's pretty powerful. But that is only really the beginning of the opportunity in terms of the technology. And what actually exists now, never mind what might even exist in the future, is really quite mind-blowing. I'll just share a couple of examples. The Google self-driving car, that's quite a nice thing. The car knows exactly where it is, it's communicating with the things around it, so it can drive itself around without a driver. And that's been driving around, you've probably seen the videos on YouTube driving around San Francisco without a driver. Rather than use your phone for augmented reality can be delivered straight to your eyeball via a contact lens that's been developed out of MIT. That creates really interesting opportunities. So actually, I could be looking at you and I can know exactly who you are. Because I can link in and get all the information around about you. And then things like smart dust. So that's not the 1 cent piece, but a little chip on it, the little sensor. These are being scattered around cities at this very moment. And they're beaming back little bits of information about the infrastructure of cities. How the roads are, what's the piping like, how the buildings sound. So it's all making cities intelligent, which is really interesting as well. You put all those together and you get quite an interesting future, I think. So for instance, I could get woken up half an hour early by my alarm clock. How's it woken me up half an hour early? Because it's communicated with the transport system and found out there are traffic jams on the road on my way to work. So it knows I'm going to need another extra half hour. And then, when I do get in my car, the car decides to take a different route to work. Why has it done that? Because it's communicated with the sensors in the road and found out my usual route has a lot of potholes and it doesn't want to damage itself. It's driving itself, of course. So it takes me to work. And then I drive straight through the gates because it's recognised me through my keys. Actually, my coffee pot's just gone on because it knows I'm going to need a coffee this morning. So that's been waiting for me, which is great. I walk into reception and I see Bob. And I say, well, Bob, well done on won a golf trophy or something. I've never met Bob before, but through my contact lens, I've received information about it. I know who he is, I know what he works for, I know his name, and I know he's just posted something about winning some golf. So that's nice. My emails have already started to download, by the way, by this point. So as I go towards my desk, my emails are downloaded, my spam's been removed, and half of them have been replied to. So actually, all I need to do is drink my coffee, and I can go home again. How good is that? Actually, we're going to play golf with Bob. It might be important. So, I mean, that's sort of sounds a bit crazy, but all these technologies are not that far away. Who knows what our future is going to be, but it's going to be really exciting, and we're only just at the beginning of it. So in terms of SoLoMo, what that offers, I definitely think that, although I may not like the term, I really like what it offers. I really like the relevancy it offers. And I think now is a great time to be thinking creatively about how I want to experiment and play in this area. Just try some things. What's going to work for your brand, what isn't? It's not always obvious. It isn't the iPhone app necessarily, or the 50% off coupon, or squeezing my big creative experience into a small screen. I think, now's the time to be playing for it, getting the data and learning about what works and what doesn't work. It's like Mark Zuckerberg himself, the Facebook king, says, let's move fast and break things. I think that's a great expression, move fast and break things. I think that is the spirit to which what really needs to take to this, because technology is moving so fast. We haven't got time to work out exactly what's going to work in every respect. We can't work out necessarily the pixel-perfect experience that we need to create. We just need to try things, measure them, and see what works. Because as far as I can see, SoLoMo is very much alive, and it's just at the beginning, and the future is very exciting. Thank you very much.